Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Hacking Health Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Canning, with Dave Kennedy.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back.
What's up?
What's going on, dude? How are you?
Good. I still need to get my lift in for today, but I'm good. Doing good. Getting ready for vacation?
I wasn't, I almost was at the point where I do not have the capacity to get a lift in today. And then I was like, oh, fucking load of bullshit. So I did 30 minutes before I started sorting the stuff out. So got mine in.
You know, I was talking, this weekend I lifted with my cousin who came over, and my cousin is, he's like my brother from another mother. Well, really, we're obviously like from separate mothers, but very, obviously close together from a genetics perspective. And so it's funny because my whole mom's side of the family is all like giants. I'm 6'4", and I'm the shortest person in my family.
Okay.
And so, Michael's like 6'4" as well. So him and I are basically like the same height. And he's a great guy. Like he's basically my brother. Like I never had, I was the only child. And so I'd always go in the summertime. My grandparents owned a farm where they, had cows and corn and everything else, just straight up like, middle of nowhere, farmland and stuff like that. And so I'd go out for the summer times and I'd go work on the farm with my cousin. So we became like best friends and everything. And his family and our family are very close. And, like their kids are all in the same age as ours. And we just, whenever we're around, we just go to each other's houses. But Michael has always been substantially stronger than me, which has really always pissed me off. And so like he's never beat me in an arm wrestle. Still to this, I'm sorry, I've never beaten him in an arm wrestle. And I didn't try it this time because last time I did, I literally jacked my shoulder up for a year. So I'm like, I'm not going to do it. But I could say that I was actually stronger than him as we're lifting. However, one of the things, like his training routines are very unique. Like he's got really big, you saw the picture, he's got really big arms.
Yeah.
And he does legs and everything. He does deadlifts and everything else. But his one, the way he splits up his training routines, I actually found very interesting. So he's got one day that's just dedicated to deadlifts. Okay. And I'm like, I kind of like this idea. Like just doing deadlifts all day. Like this sounds great to me. Like that's my kind of lift. So I was like, well, maybe I could ask Ben, can I just have like one day that's just deadlifts and then one day that's just squats? Like that can help break my leg day problem out a little bit, right? Like I can do deadlifts all day. I love deadlifts. Like if I don't have any supplemental workouts that I have to do after that, if I'm just doing deadlifts, like that sounds great.
Yeah, I mean that sounds great, except for the couple of days that come after that, and how fucked up you would be, and the inability to literally do anything else.
But hear me out. So like, but my lifts are just deadlifts. Like, so I feel like if I do like 10 deadlifts, right? Like I'm getting the muscle, I'm hitting the muscle the amount of times that I need to. And I love deadlifts. So it's like, to me, this sounds like a perfect leg day. Like that's all I do is just deadlifts.
Okay. I mean, we are at the point where we need a new training block, and I will get that ready for you coming back. So I guess we will continue this conversation via text and see what we come up with.
So then what if I just did entire days that are just chest? No, I'm just kidding. I don't like the just one isolation muscle group. It's not enough time throughout the week to grow. I'm just joking on that. But the deadlifts though, the deadlift day and then the squat day, I think would be a good idea because I can intermix them.
Just deadlifts.
Just deadlifts.
So okay, talk me through his deadlift day. Like he has a day that's just deadlifts, but like what does that entail? Just like
so his routine, I would do mine differently. Right. His routine is he basically builds up to where he can get to like the 1 to 3 rep range, and then kind of stays at that for a bit, and then he's done, right? So he kind of like goes, throws some 45s on, does a couple, throws 45s on, does a couple, throws 45s on, does a couple, until he gets to, and I think his set is like around 455, and he can do 455 for like 2, and then he'll take like a 3 or 4 minute break, does deadlift for 1, and then he'll maybe come back down and do like one more set. What I would do is I would build up to hit my top range, and then I would then go down in rep range, or I'd go down in weight and up in rep ranges. So getting him more into like the 5 to 10, and then eventually, to muscle failure, in like the 10 to 12 deadlift area. So I kind of just fully exhaust the glutes and hamstrings from that side. But I'd also have to incorporate, some quads as well, and obviously, unfortunately, calves. So it couldn't be just deadlifts, but I think like if I just made my glutes and hamstrings work out just deadlifts, I think I'd have a much better time on legs. I'm just saying.
okay, you might have a much better time, but you said his upper working set's 455, and your upper working set is more than that. So it seems that the way that we do things is better for overall strength. Just saying.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No, there's no question. But I'd just be doing deadlifts.
Okay. Well, I want the people to vote. So anybody who thinks that they should just do deadlifts, tweet us, and we'll work this out. We'll let the public vote on your next program. That'd be rough if we let the people just do your whole next program.
That's right. It's got like, you know, it'd be exercise. It'd be like the like standing one leg, you know, up in the air, glute.
Have you seen the video? A couple of people have sent me it recently. The coaches and they have their client who's a female in the squat rack, and there's a band coming from the top, and her back foot's on the band, and her front foot is also on the band, but she's doing like lunges on the band. So she's like the instability of the band, and like, fuck all this shit, like trying to attach yourself into the thing. Like, there's no way. I did notice though, I saw recently Brett Contreras, who's known as the glute guy, so I respect what he says. He was talking about...
He's talking about doing deadlifts only for his entire workout?
No, but he was talking about Bulgarian deadlifts. So I think we all know how we feel about Bulgarian split squats. And I was like, right, this Bulgarian deadlift thing should be something that we should look at. So, I mean, if you want to do those...
Well, it's just like our discussion prior to the podcast starting on whether or not you should get a pendulum squat or not. And my answer was absolutely not. This also sounds like an absolutely not type of decision.
I was coming on with the hope that you would tell me yes to buy it. I was literally just in the gym downstairs, and it's like, I don't know where I put this.
Listen, the reason I'm telling you not to buy it is because I'm your friend and I'm giving you some great advice. Like, I bought a pendulum squat and then I got rid of the pendulum squat. Like, it's the most horrible. Like, talk about, like, I'm not an ego lifter, but like, this destroys any thought pattern that you're strong in any way, shape, or form. Like,
10 pounds on it.
I got like 10 pounds on it, and I'm fucking crying, and then I'm hating life, and the rest of my day's ruined. Like, because I can't walk. Like to me, that doesn't sound like a good day. Like, I'm not accomplishing anything. Like, yeah, I did a 10-pound pendulum squat, you know, and for 4 reps, you know, and I'm murdered, you know, like it was the biggest shatter to my weightlifting journey ever. Like, I felt like this is why I hate legs day. Honestly, this is probably what caused it. I probably got caught because the damn pendulum squat. Do not ever, if you're listening to me on this podcast, don't ever try a pendulum squat. And it's not because it's not an amazing movement. It's probably the best movement for your quads ever made. But it just messes you up. Like, you're going to have like some major mental issues after this. Like, you're just not gonna be able to get over it. You got PTSD from lifting.
I think I want one. And I'll say this and we can move on because this is not what we're talking about today. But Callum, who I've talked about a lot, like I've been obviously watching his videos on his story, and I didn't count the weight, but there was at least 4 full plates on his pendulum squat. So like whatever that 445-pound plates, whatever that is, 180. Is that right?
Yeah. 4
full plates. So I mean, he's a big boy.
That's ridiculous.
Yes,
that's ridiculous.
I'll try and get the video and I'll send it to you.
That's ridiculous.
So stand by for the pendulum squat.
Yeah, well, and I'll say I just want to do a quick shout out. Like, I've watched so many like fitness influencers in quotation marks and how they talk about like, oh, you should be doing it this way, you should be doing it this way. Like, I think Dr. Mike from RP Fitness like really kind of put it in perspective. He's like, you know, these science-based influencers, he's obviously an MD, he's very, very knowledgeable. You know, he understands, you know, he's just a really smart guy. You know, he basically said, look at what Arnold did, look at what Ronnie Coleman did, look what Jake Cutler did, look at all of these folks do. And they're not doing these science-based lifts, and they're absolutely massively huge. He's like, if you're putting tension on your muscles and you're bringing your muscles close to failure, it doesn't matter what position you're in or what, you know, specific movement you're in. He's like, you should do it with some decent form and technique so you don't injure yourself. But at the end of the day, like doing like I saw Nippard had this one where he's basically like laying on the ground and he's got, you know, the rope, and he's using the rope to do a single arm lat pull down, right? From the rope. And I understand why he's showing that, because, you know, like you're isolating your lat muscle there, but it's not any better than just doing a lat pull down, a single arm lat pull down from the top or double lat pull down. You're doing the same thing. Like you're using the same exact isolation movement. It's just you're doing chest supported versus something else. So is it a little bit better? Maybe. Like, but is it going to give you a 5% increase in muscle mass? No. Is it going to give you a 0.0000000000001%? Maybe. Like so for me, it's like I really stopped looking at like all of these like crazy ass like muscle movements and things like that, and I always go back to like just the raw deadlifts and, bench presses and everything else. And then obviously the supplemental ones to burn out the muscles, the muscle failure. Like that is just true. I mean, the results speak for themselves. People that lift, volume and heavy and everything else, they get bigger. So like, that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't matter what movement you're using. If you want to do that one and you want to look cool in the gym or not cool in the gym, I would say, then go ahead and do it. But I would stay away from like all of these crazy ass movements that just create so much complexity for what you're doing. Then it's usually not beneficial. And I like to consider myself an experienced lifter at this point. I would say I'm an experienced lifter.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
I'm not laying on the fucking ground and pulling back for a lat pull down. I'm going to a lat pull down machine and pulling lat pull downs. Like I feel the contraction in my lats. I got pretty good lats. Like my lats are looking pretty good, and I haven't done that movement once. So like, I just don't see the point in a lot of those. But again, if you want to do it, cool. Same thing for pendulum squats.
I think it comes down to an overcorrection. Like I agree, and I actually saw Sam Sulik post something about it recently, and he was just like, all this, vanity bullshit as an excuse not to train hard because you're training optimally and all this shit. Like I agree with that. And I do think it's an overcorrection. And I've been there myself. Like I remember, again, to talk about Callum, like I remember whenever I first started coaching and we were over in M10 and we were learning just about different things and banding different things. And it was like, it was cool and it was exciting because it was new. And there was what felt like a new stimulus, but it's not practical day to day. Like if you're into that and you have the time and you want to do that, then that's fine. But I specifically remember the leg press in Gymco, me trying to band the fucking thing with a big thick green band, and I was like pulling it out so far, and I had to be like at the seat and then round the back and then the whole way down and round. The amount of times in here took my fucking finger off trying to like fully tense at the end of its resistance green band to get it around the leg press and then try and get it off again. So I get it to an extent, and I think yes, train hard, train safely, and supplement some of those things, and if they do feel better for you, but don't live as a like you need to fucking all these bands and set it up and you're taking up half the gym and you need to move all the equipment to be optimal.
Well, I'll say that there are one, like you should try them out. Like you should try them out to see if it feels good for you, because like for example, the one that you showed to me is by far the most superior lat raise that has ever been designed, and that's where you put the cuff on your wrist.
Yep.
And you do a crossbody lateral raise because you're keeping the tension in the stress position of that muscle, so it keeps constant tension on your lat as you're moving up. And so to me, that's a very superior lat move because I can feel the stretch, and I can also feel the isolation in my lats, and I'm not using any other muscles as part of it. So for me, like that makes a lot of sense. And could you do the same thing with dumbbells? Absolutely. But my preference is, because I feel it's a better movement for me, is using the cuffed, lat raises with the cables, or a lat raise machine that does the same thing where it keeps the tension on, the entire time throughout the whole movement. So it doesn't mean don't leverage, things that work good for you. I'm just saying, like, if you think you're going to gain an extra 5 or 10% muscle by using some crazy thing, it's not going to happen. And what's actually very interesting is Nippard actually, they did a study, and there was a study released, and Nippard was like all about, and I love Jeff Nippard. He's great, like just phenomenal. I love his workout videos and everything else. Natural bodybuilder. He looks great. He's phenomenally smart. I think he was taught by Dr. Elaine Norton as well, who I'm a huge fan of, by Elaine. But Nippard was talking about like how his whole premise was the stretch position in the muscle is far superior in building muscle than not in a stretch position. And they did some data studies where they looked at the stretch position versus non-stretch position, and basically the results were negligible. There was no major different results from the stretch position to non-stretch position. It all came down to the volume and load on the muscles and coming as close as you can, or within 3 to 4 rep ranges, or like a 8 RPE, to get to that point where the muscle really had that substantial growth. So like the stretching position is overly used, I think, in the lifting community, about how superior it is when it really isn't. It's really, we're always looking for these hacks to build muscle faster, when it just comes down to it. You just have to load weight up and you have to tax your body and be intense with it, and good things will happen. If you look at like Mike Mentzer, for example, Mike Mentzer was big on like just doing, one hard ass set for your muscle group, but his intensity for that was insane, right? Like, I mean, the guy would do 30 reps, or he'd do 3, but they were the most 3 intense reps he's ever done in his life, where he's about to die, and then that would be his workout, right? And so you can still get the same results with the intensity if it's matched equally to that. So it just comes down to intensity of the workout, putting your muscles through that to get that stimulus to grow the muscles. And then everything else after that is just what's best for you.
Agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. Are we going to continue to talk about training, or do you want to talk about this topic that I have?
No, so now we're going to talk about, okay, so now we'll get into the actual topic of today.
Okay,
so
cool. Right. So question, what if I told you there was a supplement that could boost your focus, balance your hormones, build you more muscle, burn more body fat, lower stress, strengthen your immune system, improve your mood, memory, and metabolism, all while slashing your risk of heart attack, dementia, depression, diabetes, obesity, low testosterone, and burnout? So
initially, when you said, but it can reduce your heart issues, I thought you were talking about cocaine, but no, I'm just kidding. Never tried in my life. Just throw it out there. It's a joke. Just a joke. Never tried in my life. Yeah, that would be an amazing supplement. What is it? I already know the answer because we talked about this beforehand, but what's the answer?
You already know.
Sleep.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that this is the most overlooked thing. And actually, truthfully, again, to talk about myself this is the continued experiment. The reason I don't want to talk about this is because mine is shit. So I'm not here telling you that I have recently mine has been shit. So I'm not here to tell you that I have it all worked out. I'm here to tell you that this is something that I have observed, that I have, I guess, let the ball drop on the quality and the quantity that I have gotten. I'm going to talk through why it's important and ways to manage it. And I am publicly announcing right now that I'm going to do better in terms of my sleep. Because I think, again, from a quick Google beforehand, it shows that 1 in 5 adults now claim that they sleep for 5 hours or less per night. And a little bit further into Google, in cybersecurity, 40% believe that less than 6 hours sleep equals adequate performance. And while that is fine, I think that the thing that frustrated me within that the most is that adequate. Adequate, fine, but how do we make it more optimal across the board? Consequences whenever it comes to lower sleep, twice the risk of dementia and death for less than 5 hours. Not into that. And truthfully, again, there was a couple of nights recently that I've been getting 5 hours or even less. And then an increased risk by 20% of heart attack for less than 6 hours of sleep. Plus 10 to 15% drop in testosterone after just 1 week of 5 hours per night, which is equivalent to basically adding 10 to 15 years of your biological clock testosterone-wise.
So it's interesting. Sleep is something I absolutely neglected pretty much my entire life. Up until I would say probably when we first met 5 years ago, 6 years ago. How many years has it been? 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, my career, well, first of all, coming out, when you're a teenager, you don't even care about sleep. You don't even think about it. You're doing whatever. You're staying up till 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning playing video games. You wake up at 6 o'clock, go to school. You're tired and exhausted, but I feel like you can recover from that. Your body is okay during those pieces. And then in the Marine Corps, obviously didn't sleep a lot either. So, long nights, long days, your hours are all messed up. Your circadian rhythm's all messed up. Your internal clock, because I'm working nights sometimes. I'm working 24-hour shifts another day. So, the sleep priority really, and then obviously when I got out of the military, being in cybersecurity is probably one of the worst industries for sleep, because in order to progress, in this field, I feel like you have to become a subject matter expert in whatever you're training for. And so I would spend, my days at work working, and then I'd come home and I'd teach myself new things, new traits, new skills, whether it was coding or building new tools. I'd stay up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, a lot of times with consumption of alcohol, to help me code or to, listen to some trance music, and from there get some coding in. And I'd wake up and do the same thing every day and feeling just like total crap. And what was interesting is, my body definitely showed that, right? I mean, I had cardiovascular issues. I had health issues. I had obesity issues. All of these things started to creep up very quickly because of my habits, and a large percentage of that was because of my lack of sleep. And there's a specific gene or part of our DNA that some people have, that they can work and function without a lot of sleep. But it's a very small percentage. I'm gonna say it's 3% of human beings have this gene, where you only need 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and it's equivalent to 7 to 8 hours of sleep. But most people on average need minimally around 7 hours to 8 hours of sleep is kind of the good baseline for that. And for me, I didn't know what that was, but what really helped me understand that was, for one, the Whoop tracker was phenomenal for me to understand, like, my recovery scores when I was recovered and not. It bases things off of resting heart rate variability, and how much sleep you actually get throughout the night. That equates to deep sleep, i.e. REM sleep, as well as other stages of your sleep cycle. And what I noticed when I got more regular sleep is I recovered more and I felt more energetic throughout the day, and everything else started to fall in line. So, for example, my blood work came back substantially better. Now I have hypogonadism, which means I don't produce enough testosterone through my testes. Sorry for TMI. So I'm not going to be talking about like the size or texture of my testes. When I'm talking, my testes don't produce enough testosterone. So for me, the sleep didn't necessarily help with that because I have a diagnosable issue for testosterone production. My levels were in the low 200 ranges. And what's interesting is I actually did a little bit of a test where I stopped taking testosterone because I figured, one, at the time when I started taking testosterone, I was overweight, I wasn't sleeping, I had all these issues. So could I course correct it through nutritional aspects? Could I course correct it through supplementation of, give my body the right nutrients that it needs for testosterone production, i.e. B12 and things like that? Because of my lifestyle changes of sleep and working out, would my testosterone levels increase? And so I went cold turkey on testosterone for about a month, and my testosterone levels were still low, unfortunately. So that didn't work for me. But for some people, it does work, right? So some people, if you're in the 200, 300s, just by getting good sleep and by putting your body through rigorous exercises and being more active, your testosterone levels will naturally increase substantially because of that. So it has a lot of health benefits. And to be honest with you, from a health perspective, sleep is by far the number one biggest thing that you can do to help yourself and help your body and help your hormonal balances. As you mentioned, the laundry list of things that it does, we need sleep.
I agree. And I think that, there's definitely trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, even for people now who are, a little bit more in tune with their blood work and their testosterone levels. It's like, how much of this has come from so many years of neglect around sleep solely, and, everything that sort of comes along with it. And I think it can be done. Your buddy Jack that has the Darknet Diaries podcast, he did a post on his increased levels of testosterone naturally from managing his sleep and his nutrition and other bits and pieces. So there's a lot to be said for doing it that way. It fucks up a lot of things. And I mean, we're going to try and get through all of this today, but it maybe is going to be a 2-part podcast. So metabolic wreckage, what does that mean? From a hormonal standpoint, what does lack of sleep mean? It reduces your insulin sensitivity, which is basically how your body processes insulin, moves glucose through your bloodstream in the cells. Your blood sugars will stay elevated, which is not what you want. Body will store more fat, or especially around the belly, and increased risk of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. The connection here, and I think that this is key, whenever it's put like this, I think it really hits. So just 4 to 5 nights of sleep of under 6 hours sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity by 20 to 30%, making you metabolically behave like a pre-diabetic. Not saying that you are a pre-diabetic, but your metabolism will act like you are. The other thing is increased cortisol level, which is your stress hormone, which is good in some instances, and we'll talk about that later. But generally, stress hormone helping you feel energetic, alertness, and it will manage inflammation. Again, whenever it's elevated over a longer period of time, increased fat storages, breakdown of muscle tissue, and it suppresses your immune function, which again, we do not want. Leptin and ghrelin hormones. So you may be in this, and I find that the best example for this for me personally is a night that you don't sleep at all. So a night that you have zero sleep, and the next day you feel hungry all the time, and you can't really suppress your appetite. So your leptin is a hormone that sort of manages your satiety, which is the signal of feeling full. And your ghrelin hormone is your hunger hormone. So it's the one that signals that you're hungry, and they get all fucked up whenever you don't sleep, essentially. For me, I guess the best way I can put this is it's like this insatiable hunger all day, but you crave things that your body feels is going to give you energy. So like sugary foods, snack foods, carbs, which obviously aren't going to fill you. So you fall into this cycle of just wanting those foods, and then you don't feel full throughout the day. So they got all jacked up as well without sleep. That's from a hormonal level. You mentioned their circadian rhythm. I think that's something that is important to talk about, because what the fuck is that essentially? Essentially, your body's internal clock. It runs roughly on a 24-hour cycle, and it sort of is dictated by light and dark. It looks at when you have the most energy, when you should do specific tasks, how your body digests food, how your body metabolizes food, how it does literally everything. It is controlled by your SCN, which is in your brain. I'm not going to try and say that word. Suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is basically your brain's master clock, and it controls your circadian rhythm. The best way, again, to put this is, if you think about, and we've heard Andrew Huberman say this a million times over about that morning light. Basically, that's a signal to your brain that it's morning and it's the start of your circadian rhythm. So, the tip on that is to get out and get some daylight. Obviously, we've spoken before, in the winter months and whenever it's like dark for longer, having a sad lamp or something to sort of mimic that light to give you the signal that it is time to be awake. And then evening darkness. So again, we've talked about wind down routine, dim lights, no screen time, like all those things that are going to help you get into that like sleep state and start the production of melatonin in your body. Now, you will have heard us talk about melatonin before as a supplement. Again, it is produced naturally in your body, and it is the thing that sort of promotes that sleepiness. It should start to release in your body in the evening, and is the thing that will make you feel tired. And then it peaks, depending on the person, between 1 to sort of 2 a.m. in the morning. So the light will signal the cortisol, and that's the stress, which we want as the alertness and the energy in the morning. And then the darkness in the evening will signal the time to wind down and the production of melatonin.
And it's interesting because people often equate cortisol to a very negative effect, right? And your body needs cortisol. There's a very specific reason for cortisol. And you don't want your cortisol levels to remain high, in perpetuality, throughout the entire day. And, so if you have high levels of cortisol, that can be bad, right? But there's a balance to everything. It's like, like they came out recently with a study that, vitamin D is like the most amazing supplement ever, blah, blah, blah. However, if you take too much vitamin D, you have issues, right? So, everything within moderation for balancing things. It's like same thing for like testosterone, like, running 1,000 of testosterone is great, but running 5,000 testosterone is not great. You're going to have a lot of cardiovascular issues and a lot of other issues with your body. It puts everything off of the system. So we're trying to create a synchronous balance with all of our hormones and chemicals and circadian rhythms and everything else here that goes along. And that comes through, regularly scheduled things that we can do, i.e. sleep, really kicks off the repair process for our bodies and all the things that it needs to get done. And that's why if you actually look at a lot of the newer data studies that are coming out around like sleep aid medicine, they're not great for you. They're just not great. They don't, it may help you fall asleep, but the type of sleep that you get is showing some pretty negative benefits. Like, for example, there's been some that have been linked to higher risk and probability of Alzheimer's disease. There's certain things that don't get shut off in your body through these chemicals and drugs. So there's a lot of things to think about. The only one that I've seen that actually has some decent data to fall asleep on that is not addictive or habit forming and is fairly decent is trazodone. And that one is fairly okay from the data that we've seen. But again, hopefully you don't need sleep aids to get to sleep. And if you're sticking to certain criteria, like, hey, I don't have caffeine after what's the BC family limit, 3 o'clock,
2 p.m. at the latest.
Okay,
back to 12 if you could.
Yeah. So 2 p.m. or 12 to 2 p.m. Caffeine intake. So that your adenosine receptors have time to chill and actually bind to your circadian rhythm. And then also certain things that you can do, like getting some good amount of light in the morning to really kick off that process. So it's interesting. So I saw a very interesting study of why children like night lights. And it's because, through thousands and thousands of years of evolution, we would build fires at night to scare away large animals. Mm-hmm. And so our bodies became accustomed to having a little bit of light while we sleep. And that was a sense of protection from animals and things like that, right? Which is very, very interesting. However, our bodies typically don't respond well to large amounts of light at night because it throws off our circadian rhythm, thinking that it's still daylight. Mm-hmm. So, our circadian rhythm is like, whoa, you woke up at 8, there's a lot of light, and it's 8 p.m. and there's a lot of light. what's going on? Like, are you in a different time zone? Like, do I need to stay up later? And so your body thinks it needs to stay up later.
Yeah.
That's why, like they have a lot of the light options on your phone to kind of get rid of certain colors, the blue colors, to kind of get rid of that specific piece of it. But you want to start to get into habits that allow you to fall asleep and get a good amount of sleep and prioritize sleep within your journey, because that will make you much more efficient and healthier to live longer for much longer periods of time. There's some really good studies that show just the impact that sleep has, the lack of sleep has, on wreaking havoc on your body, and how many years it actually cuts off on your life if you're not getting good sleep. And so, like, huge benefit is sleep. I'm a big fan.
And to be fair, you have nailed it recently. Like, there's a lot of, checking and screenshots and hitting PRs in terms of your sleep, which is a good metric to look at. But again, to go back to circadian rhythm, I think a good point on this is that it's not the same for everybody, and you can, it's based on your chronotype of your body, and there's a lot of things you can do to look at it. I'm not getting into, what the different types of chronotypes are, but things to look at. If you're not looking at it from a tracking, if you're not tracking it with a fitness tracker or whatever, just being a little bit more aware of how you feel throughout the day. So are you groggy in the morning but alert at night? So whenever you get to sleep, like, is that whenever you sort of wake up? Do you crash it daily but crash after dinner? Do you work on that sort of 9 to 5 rhythm, and then do you struggle to get to sleep or focus energy throughout the day? For me, you'll have this on Whoop, on Aura. It tells you roughly like where your optimal, I had this pulled up earlier. It tells you roughly where your sort of natural circadian rhythm should be, and trying to be in line with that, which I think is actually a really cool feature within that. Mine was slightly off what I would imagined it would have been. Now, I don't know whether it is just adapting to how I have been sleeping, but it is good to have a look at that to see how in line you can be with that and try and not be off it as much as possible, because obviously, if it is slightly off based on what your days need to look like and the time you need to get up, then you need to sort of adapt it. It is flexible to an extent, but it's not infinitely flexible. Another good tool or app on that is the Rise Science app. So Rise Science is the website, and it basically, it shows you how you should sleep based on your activity throughout the day, plus what you should be doing throughout the day, and when you manage the best tasks. So when you should have your, the most energy to get the most focused tasks on, when you potentially have a dip in energy throughout the day, and the things that you should do within that. So again, there's plenty of stuff that you can look at within that. What you want is cortisol to spike in the morning. As I said, extended elevated cortisol is not good, but you do want cortisol to spike in the morning, because it's the thing that will basically mobilize energy within your body. It's the thing that will, like, you're alert, you're focused, and you're good to go. And then obviously on the opposite side of that, we want to make sure that melatonin is starting to release and be produced, later on in the evening. Make sure you're getting the good quality sleep. And I'll touch on all the things that you mentioned there about the lights and other bits and pieces, because there's things that we can do to get that. I think the biggest piece on this, and this is something that I've tried to hit home with pretty much everybody that I work with over the past 2 years, is the consistency. So it's not always just about getting more sleep. It's about getting consistent, like, wake time and sleep time. And Matt touched on this on the call that he did for us recently. We all know that we have a time that we should get up at, or we have to get up at, based on the shit that we have to do throughout the day. So, if you've got to be at work and everything you need to do before that, then you need to get up at a certain time. That's fine. But as adults, we don't have a bedtime. We don't have a set bedtime. Harper goes to bed at 7:30. So we bring her to bed at 7:30, read a book, and she should be asleep by 8 o'clock. As a kid, you have a bedtime. As an adult, you fucking do whatever you want. But keeping those two things in line, more importantly, the wake time than the sleep time, having that consistency around those two times is going to be the biggest driver for the quality of the sleep that you have. Instead of, sometimes waking up at 5, sometimes waking up at 9, sometimes going to bed at 10, sometimes going to bed at 2 a.m. That's the thing that's going to fuck you up the most. For me, what I have done and what I'm going to do moving forward is give myself a window between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. That's my window to sleep, and try to stick to that as best possible. A thing that I want to mention on this side is a thing called social jet lag. So essentially, if we're talking about keeping your wake time the same every day, that does include weekends, because again, you get people who maybe get up early, super early, 5 a.m. throughout the week, and then at the weekend they're maybe lying into 8 or 9 o'clock. And essentially, if you think about that, of waking up in, say, Ohio, Monday to Friday, but then waking up in Texas on Saturday and Sunday, like that jet lag that you would feel in a 3-hour time difference. You will feel that in your body based on the times that you're getting up. So trying to keep that as regular as possible, including the weekend. There's a lot of people within the chat and in the community and on the calls recently saying like the biggest shift in that is, yes, okay, maybe you don't want to get up at 5 a.m. at the weekend, but doing that and maintaining it makes the rest of the week and your focus and your sort of how your days and how your energy is managed and how you process and digest food, like everything is controlled by your circadian rhythm and your sleep pattern.
Yeah, one of the things that has really helped me again as a tracker. What was really interesting, and it actually just happened to me now, and I was able to actually diagnose it based off of my tracker. I woke up one morning and I can feel it a little bit where my heart is pounding fast, and I had this happen. I've had it happen a few times throughout the past several years, and I never could figure out why. And so what will happen is I'll start to feel like my heart it's starting to race a little bit, and it'll last for like a couple of days. And I don't know why, right? And I've had heart surgery before, and I had what's called lone atrial fibrillation, and I know what that feels like. Like it's different. Like my heart would like flutter, and then it would spike up, and my heart would just be like I'm running a marathon. It's very different. Like this is more of like my heart's just racing, and I get kind of sweaty and stuff like that throughout the day. And I didn't know what the issue was, and just recently, it actually happened to me this weekend. It was funny because I was doing deadlifts, and I get like really lightheaded as I'm doing it. And I looked at my tracker for the sleep, and my resting heart rate shot up by like 60%. And but what was crazy is my heart rate variability, because my heart rate was so high, was like 105. And it made it look like my heart rate variability was like the best it's ever been in my entire life. It was obviously an anomaly there. And what was interesting that I was able to finally correlate it to that I wasn't able to before was I recently just increased my dosages of T3, T4, levothyroxine, because I have a partial thyroid. I had to get my right thyroid removed, and so I'm on supplementation for thyroid medicine. And I got my blood work back done recently, and the doctor had suggested that I increase my levothyroxine prescription. And he gave me a few options. He's like, well, you can go to, I'm at 25 right now. And he's like, you can go to 50, see how you work there, then go to 75, see if you're there. And he's like, the max I would go is 100, just to see where your levels are at. He's like, so why don't you, do one of those suggestions? So for me, I'm like, oh, I'll just go to 100, and so probably a bad idea, but the thing was, yeah, you know me, I'm just like, hey, I'm just gonna go max, because more thyroid medicine's better, right? But what happens is, it takes like 3 or 4 weeks for the thyroid medicine to really get into your system and to really feel the benefits of it, to normalize your thyroid levels. So why I was never able to correlate that is because, again, it's like 3 or 4 weeks. It's not like I'm taking a pill and all of a sudden that same day something happens. And so what ended up happening was, like, I was able to correlate what was coming from my Whoop data and my sleep scores to my direct correlation of when I started taking the medicine with the thyroid stuff, and realizing that, hey, my body probably doesn't need that much thyroid medicine. Now, I talked to my doctor about it, and I also read a lot of studies on this. And what can happen is it's kind of like a new baseline for your body. So what will happen is your heart, you'll get this for a couple of days, and then your body baselines and you're back to normal. So I dropped it down to 75 just to kind of see if that's a sweet spot and then get my blood work done again. But all those symptoms seem to have completely gone away. No racing heart or anything like that after I started doing that. But it was interesting because I was able to track a lot of these stats that I'm able to get from wearables. My blood pressure stayed the same. That was fine. I was never in a dangerous spot. But my resting heart rate substantially grew faster because of that. So there's a lot of great things you can do. And I think tracking sleep is important. Like, that's why I really so I have a Garmin, I have a Whoop, I've tried the Apple Watch, I've tried the Oura Ring, I've tried the Ultra Human Ring. Whatever your flavor is, I personally think Whoop does a great job. They're the best at showing like just a quick biological clock of everything that's going on. Your strain, your recovery, and your sleep. So when I wake up in the morning, it gives me a stat saying, hey, here's how you performed in your sleep. And my recovery still might be shit because I put my body through a lot of stuff the day before, but at least I know my sleep is good, right? And so I might know that, hey, maybe I need to take a little bit easy today, or maybe I need a rest day. I'm not using the data to say, hey, I need a rest day based on how I'm feeling, but it's a good baseline to understand what's going on in your body. And I just actually got unlocked yesterday. So after 30, I think it's 20 or 21 days of sleep scoring, it gives you your biological age, your metaphysical age based on your health scores. And it has me at 38 and I'm 42. Nice. So I think that's pretty damn good. right now. So I'm a 38-year-old, physically, 42 actual age wise, and like 14 mentally. So, it's like, I'm kind of in the different areas there, from a from a biology perspective, but it's good. It's just good data to understand. And especially the sleep stuff is really important. Like I'm obsessed with ensuring I get good sleep. Like I'm very, very meticulous. And you know me, when I first started, that was not my thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm good at 6 hours. I'm good at 6 hours. I'm good at 6 hours. And you're like, nope, you need more. You need more. Like I can tell your scores, like you need more.
Yeah.
And so, I'm meticulous with that. Like if I go to bed at 11:30, I know the next day I don't have to wake up until like 7:30 or 8 just to get enough, sleep in. Or I go to bed. My normal bedtime is usually around 10 or 10:30. I wake up around 7 or 6:30. That's a good amount of sleep for me, right?
Yeah, agree. And we'll wrap up the sleep hygiene and the things that you can do that don't cost anything to just fucking sort your sleep out. And then I think we'll do a part 2 on this, because I have lots of things to take into consideration, like when you travel and lots of other shit. And I think it deserves the airtime. I think to sort of wrap this up on the whole, like sleep is the best thing categorically that you can do in terms of improving your health overall. It is also free. And there are things that you can do that also are free that will help improve the quality of your sleep. Number one is setting those boundaries around your sleep, like time-wise. So sticking to a regular wake time and bedtime. In terms of sleep hygiene and sort of setting yourself up as best possible, essentially working from being asleep and backwards, the environment that you sleep in. So preference would be a cool room or a cold room. I know that you use the 8 sleep, so being able to control that is hugely beneficial. The room as dark as possible. I recently in the house, the blinds aren't completely blackout, and it's obviously light at nighttime at fucking 9:30 when I'm going to bed. So I started wearing an eye mask, which is very frustrating at the start because I'm like, get this fucking thing off me. But in terms of the darkness and the quality of sleep, it has improved. I find a warm shower, or if that is your preference, helps, because what that will do is it will heat up your body, and then what your sort of internal core temperature will try and cool itself down and dump out as much heat as absolutely possible. So it will cool you down internally. Another thing to take into consideration is the timing of your meal before you go to bed. So ideally 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed is your last meal, because if you think about the process of digestion, number one, it's activity in your body. Number two, if you've ever had a heavy meal that, like meat sweats is the prime example of this. It heats up your body because it's expending so much energy trying to actually digest the food. It will control your blood sugars, which means you get better quality of sleep, less disruption around your REM sleep, and less wake time throughout the night. Backwards again from that is obviously the caffeine. And again, I have heard it time and time again, and you and I have said, and I can do it too. Yes, I can go to sleep, I can fall asleep, but it's the quality of the sleep that is what's sacrificed within that. So there's a lot you can do within that. And in the next episode, we'll talk about supplementation once you've nailed that, if you do still struggle with it, because I realize people do. Plus all the other things that we can take into consideration, because I realize people travel for work and there's a lot of other things to sort of unfuck and take into that. And then I'm going to set everybody a bit of a challenge whenever it comes to sleep, but you're going to have to wait and tune in for part 2 on that.
Yeah. And, one of the biggest things that I can just express is like, find what works for you. It's just like weight training, resistance training. Like you get in through a habit, you start to like it, you start to do it, or you start to get into a regimen, and that becomes kind of your new norm, and then start to look at supplementation and things, how you can do it. Like, for example, taking magnesium at night, or, other things that might actually help you sleep.
Stop giving it away. They have to wait the next one.
I know.
We want to talk about supplements. You love talking about supplements all the time.
I know, but I was saying, but the one last thing I would say is like, one of the things that I invested in that I really appreciate is my 8 sleep, which is a mattress that it's a cloth that goes over your mattress. They make multiple different sizes, so regardless of the size that you have, and it automatically adjusts the temperatures throughout the night. So it has a water system, and it's crazy because I've only filled it once. I've had it for a year and a half. You don't have to keep like filling it up and things like that. You just have to put a new filter in once a year. So it's very no maintenance whatsoever. And it automatically analyzes your sleep and tries to improve the temperatures to help you with your sleep as you're going on. And the new one that they just came out with, the new model, I think it's like the Pod 3 or Pod 4 or whatever it ends up being, what version? Pod 5, yeah. It has speakers built into it to help with like sound and noise and things like that, to help you sleep better throughout the night. like white noise and other things that can help you sleep. And it also has like snore adjustment stuff. So if it detects your partner or you snoring, it automatically adjusts it so you're not snoring anymore. So some good benefits there. But I will tell you, my sleep scores have substantially improved.
On that, by the way, to interrupt, because I've been him and Anna about it for fucking ages, and Matt and I have talked to death. Recently, new bed, new mattress. He did the same. We had the conversation, and actually, we were talking. I was like, right, we're just going to fucking order it. And then 2 days later, they released the 5. It's not. I don't think it's shipped until the end of July, but I am in for one because, like, at this point, I'm sold on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it in the stats. Like the stats don't lie. Like, and it sends me a daily. It's called autopilot. Mm-hmm. It sends me a daily text message let me know how my sleep score was and what it adjusted to help me sleep better.
Nice.
And like, so what you typically want is when you're going to bed, you want the bed to be a little bit warm. And then as you fall into a deeper sleep, you want it to be cooler to help more with your sleep. So it drops your temperature down. And then as you start to wake up, you want it to be a little bit hotter, right? A little bit warmer. So it puts you through these cycles as you're going through and adjusts your body temperature specifically to what your body needs for the best amount of sleep. And it's great. Now, there are days where like, hey, maybe I'm super cold and I crank the temperature up in my app really quick. There's days where I'm super hot, like in the summertime specifically, and I drop it down a couple, right? Results may vary and you may change it as you go along, but something like that. And they also make a full bed as well, that you can buy. One of the best investments I've ever made was through going through 8 Sleep. And I've tried a number of them. There's like 5 or 6 different brands out there. I know Sleep Number makes one, a few others. 8 Sleep by far gold standard. It's like the Whoop of your sleeping app. Like it's phenomenal.
Like I said, I'm in for one. So once it ships, I will do after a month. I will do a review and we'll have a look at my sleep. But we'll leave it there. We will continue this episode as a part 2 for sleep, and we'll go through all the other bits in terms of how to navigate general life and take these things into consideration whenever you're on the move, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for this week's podcast. This one was super duper important. Sleep is one of the most critical aspects of anybody's life. So make sure you're getting enough sleep, make sure you're tracking it, and catch us for more tips next time. Same place.
See you next week.